So I really don't want to do this. I'm Jack, and this is my 2002 Ford Focus RS Mark 1. So bought this car in 2009, Friday the 13th of March. Completely standard road going car. It had a Scorpion exhaust on it actually, but other than that it was an immaculate one owner. I think it was on about 17,000 miles. Just a lovely example that I decided to purchase and cut up into a race car. I thought that was never my intentions originally. I wanted to keep it standardish. A few track days led it to go into like a club sport level, and then that basically got the race in the hook, if you like, ingrained in my head, and I just thought, how far can I go with a front wheel drive hot hatch, and this is the end result. So started with obviously the standard RS, which comes with, I think about 70% of it's different from a standard Focus. One of the big things with him is the wide arches, obviously inspired by WRC cars. I ran the car with stock wings for probably about 5-6 years, but as you start to increase everything else, power, brakes, suspension, there's only so wide a tyre you can fit under the standard arches. So got in contact with a rallycross company that designed a wide arch kit for their rallycross program. So initially I just bought basically the whole front end. So the whole front end's a carbon Kevlar composite front end, which is wings, bumper, bonnet. And then the front splitter is actually quite interesting. It's off a certain Duran's Pines Peak RS200. So I've managed to adapt that to fit my needs, with the splitter and the side wings to try and diffuse the air up as best as I can. And it actually works really well. And off the back of that, I'm able to run a 255, 265 wide front tyre on a 9J rim compared to the 225 that came on the RS as standard. So like I said, it's got 9J rims all round. The fronts are actually on the wets just now, so we're on Michelin Pilot Sport 5s with the Team Dynamics. Obviously going down the side of the car, like I said, doors, everything, the whole car is composite body. There's not a single steel panel left on it now. One of my cool asphyxiations is a NASCAR exhaust. This is actually a genuine Dr. Gas boom tube exhaust tip on it. Came all the way from the States. It's quite heavy duty, as you can imagine. American cars aren't too concerned about their weight. It upsets me a little how heavy it is, but it completes the look of a, the sort of early touring car side exit quite well. And then on the back we've got the Compa Motifs with the R888Rs as the dry tyre, and obviously the rear quarter panels again, all carbon Kevlar, to allow me to run the big wheels, the big tyres. So obviously running the side exit exhaust, there's no exhaust out the back anymore, which has allowed me to fit a Lotus Elise, I think it's an S2 rear diffuser. I'm not allowed to run a flat floor due to regulations the car races in, so it is literally just a axle back sort of diffuser. There's no ground effect as such on the diffuser itself. The back bumper is original. It's albeit cut up to try and fit the wide arches as best as I can, and obviously the fog and reverse lights are gone because I run a rain light again for the racing. The boot again is composite, plexi windows all round. The rear wing, quite interesting. This is one of the things I get a lot of questions. What's it offer? Where'd you get it from? Where can I buy it? Long story short, it's an APR GT3000 wing, might be a 2000. I'd have to measure the size. I think that was the only thing. So it's a genuine APR rear wing from America. Actually works, actually creates downforce. It's adjustable obviously, and then it's on custom uprights which are bolted to will be the C pillars of the rear body. It's not on the boot, it's actually directly onto the body frame of the car. And obviously you can see the windows had to take a fair cut to allow these to pass up. But if you're fitting something like that and you actually want it to create downforce, it's got to be solid mounted. You can't just have it on a carbon Kevlar boot. It will just flex and probably just rip itself off, because it does create downforce. And I have had to adjust it and tighten up the bolts quite a few times. The sheer drag it creates off the back of that. So like I said, the whole car is composite. There's not a steel body panel left on it, and one of the cool visually looking parts that saved about 10 kilos alone is the roof. It's full carbon fibre, actually came from JTK in Finland. I think there's only a handful of these in the UK. Yeah, and like I say, it shaved about 10 kilograms off the roof, which is obviously quite a high weight, so it helps your centre of gravity massively as well by lowering it down, which means the only steel panels left in the car are these pillars, and that's about it. Brakes are obviously upgraded. They're AP's Racing, I think they're a 70/90 caliper. Quite an old caliper now, probably more of a fast road caliper than an actual racing caliper. But back in the day, that's kind of all that was available for them. Regular servicing, changed the seals out to high temp. They've actually been a really good caliper, not a spot of bother, and with the car being so light, I can actually get away with running them. I don't need to go up to a bigger caliper. Not that they're small, but they work really well. So the front end's obviously quite interesting. It's function over form. It looks okay, but it's not the prettiest. I actually prefer the standard RS bumper. I think it looks nicer. This is quite stubby, being a WRC bumper, obviously widened, but it's all function over form. So these are obviously vented for there's an oil cooler here. The other side's got a hole in it for another transmission cooler. The front splitter, again, is made to regs, so it's a plywood splitter, as far out as it can be for regulations. I think it's like 100mm. It's solid mounted to the frame on collapsible aluminium supports from Callum Haynes. He made them. The reason they're aluminium, I was scared if I ever took a big hit when I went off the track, that you've got the potential to damage your chassis legs by pushing them up just this year if you solid mount something. So they're aluminium, so they'll hold the weight of the downforce fine, but they've also got a bit of give in them, and that's also the same as when we come onto the supports. These support the splitter from moving down, but allow it to flex up. So again, if you hit a curb, they'll bend up out the road without pushing anything if you have a solid mounted rod. Front end's actually quite tricky on this. The radiator package has all been moved forward about 5 inches. And that was allowing me to run this vent. This is from probably a 2003 WRC Focus RS, 2003-2004. I thought the vent bolts onto the bonnet easy. The space behind it, due to the angles they have, the engine is completely different. So in a WRC car, the engine's nearly on its side, whereas I'm a traditional mounted engine. So I've got a manifold basically right here. So I'm limited with space, and that's why I had to move the whole radiator package forward to allow me room to create a duct to help drag the hot air out from behind the radiator. Because there's now no air going through the engine bay, I've got these reverse, like sort of NACA ducts almost, and the way these are designed is the fast air going over the top of them drags the air out of the engine bay to try and keep it a bit cooler inside the engine bay itself. So Focus RS's come with a 2 litre Z-Tech, not a Duratec, although they're badged that from the factory. This is still a 2 litre Z-Tech, pretty old engine. It's not fancy like your K20s and your Hondas and stuff like that now. It's a pretty simple engine. Although this one is a built one by Ian Howell at Area 6. It's 2 litre displacement, runs a Garrett GTX 30 turbo. It was the smallest exhaust housing on it. I wasn't chasing power, I was wanting response. I wanted, to be able to get a punch out a corner rather than having to wait for my turbo to spool up, and it does that just fine. It's got a full 3.5 inch exhaust from Callum Haynes again. He created that. Don't know how, because there's not a lot of room down there. So it's got a few spec car goodies on it, catch tank being the main one, and the intercooler. I think my car was maybe the second Focus RS to have the spec car intercooler on it. Took it down to just outside Bristol. In Pete, a super nice guy. He took the car in, finished off the intercooler installation, and then I got it across to Sabre for some mapping on the original ECU. Other things in engine bay, it's got obviously a spec R intake manifold on it. These are Toyota Yaris coil packs. I've designed a custom plate to allow me to fit them. Doesn't run wasted spark anymore. The front end is obviously tubed to allow just for more room. Basically opening up, removing the slam panel allows me to run this big carbon duct. It's got a Murray Evanshaw radiator on it, which is just ever so slightly bigger than standard, but it's a much better flowing radiator. And combined with the ducting about the hood, it's never ran cooler. It's actually amazing how cool it runs. Carbon ducting, this is all made by me. It's not the prettiest, but again, it's fully functional. Just basically helps the air escape from the back of the radiator. I was finding that at high speed the air was stalling out while hitting the Nortec manifold. So to kind of combat that, looking at WRC cars, they vent them out the hood. You can obviously just use, again, like a reverse Nakaduck effect to drag the air out, and it works really well. But you can see how far forward the radiator sits. This used to be probably back here, and straight up and down. It's actually tilted forward. I've moved it forward that much. Which kind of moves us on to the interesting point about the car is the gearbox. It used to run a Quaife 5-speed dog box, but I just could not get it to handle the power. It kept on basically destroying dog rings, and I tried multiple things from fancy oils to oil coolers, cryogenically treating the gears. I mean, I tried everything I could with that gearbox. It's an updated shifter mechanism from a guy in the States, Terry Haynes. So I've actually went down one-off route of using a VW Audi Group DSG DQ250 gearbox. It's found in your Golf GTIs mainly. It's a front-wheel drive configuration, 6-speed dual clutch. It's been mapped by TVS. It's got a Wavetrack LSD in it. Obviously runs custom drive shafts where it's a mix and match of VW on the inside and Focus RS on the outside. Got an oil cooler in it as well, just to try and keep the oil under control when it's in track use. And we're just in the kind of final mapping development stage of that, which is going really well. It's almost the benefits of a sequential gearbox, but without the sheer cost. The initial outlay cost is half compared to what a sequential is, and then hopefully the running costs will be a lot cheaper, although the DSG gearbox oil is expensive. This is the office, as every pretend race car driver likes to call it. It's pretty basic. It's built to meet or exceed Motorsport UK's set of regulations. Main goal is obviously keep it as light as possible. Anything I don't need has been removed, so all the heater matrix, heater gubbins, glove box has all been stripped back. All the wiring's been removed. Seats have been replaced with Sparco bucket seats. It's got a safety device cage in it, just a bolt-in. Lifeline quick release hub, nice little sparkle steering wheel. One of the interesting regs is you've got to run a full-size dashboard top. It doesn't actually say what it's got to be made out of, so I actually moulded an original dashboard and created out of carbon. I think just on the skin alone, not including any of the gubbins that was in behind the dash, is like 6 kilograms saving on the dash panel alone, which is pretty wild. Got the Plex SDM 300 display, a couple stack boost and AFR gauges just for quick reference, although everything is displayed on the Plex display there itself. Got a 3D printed button mount, basically, cal switches, drive modes, various other heated screens, and obviously your fire extinguisher and ignition cut off. The whole thing is controlled by a Cyvex S7 ECU. So Cyvex controls mainly the engine, but also talks to the transmission control unit in the gearbox. The Cyvex can program about 80% of your shift characteristics in the gearbox, but fundamentally the TCU still has like main control of the gearbox. But that's what we're working through just now with the mapping. It's starting to behave more and more like an OEM VW gearbox would in a Golf, just with the speed increase on the shifts, which is obviously what you want for racing. So these are controlled through track formulas, paddle shifters. It's kind of Porsche PDK style, where you hold both to engage neutral, and as long as you've got your foot on the brake, you can control enter first gear with the right paddle, or hold left paddle and that'll engage reverse. It's quite a neat and compact system without the need for any extra buttons, which is nice. What are you doing? I don't even know how to start it. Stop.